In our next video of the Better Photography Weekly Challenge, we will be discussing the winners and honorable mentions of Shades of Winter contest. Our judge and mentor is Saumya Khandelwal, a Getty Image Instagram grantee in 2017 for her work Child Brides of Shravasti. Soumya's work focuses on gender and environmental issues. Nominated for the World Press Photo 6 by 6 Global Talent Program from Asia region in 2019, Soumya has built a diverse body of work spanning journalism and documentary genres of photography. She has previously worked with Thomson Reuters and Hindustan Times. She has contributed to the National Geographic, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, The Guardian, Vanity Fair, Caravan, as well as NGOs like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Malala Fund, and Path India. Recipient of the National Foundation of India Award 2017, Soumya's work has also been exhibited at the Getty Images Gallery, India Photo Festival, and Goa Photo Festival. She has also digitally exhibited at Women in Photography Slideshow, Singapore. She has hosted Talk by Women Photographers, an online platform that encourages talented women artists from across the globe to share their moving stories. Hi, Soumya.
Hello, thank you so much for the introduction yet again, and it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So, shall we discuss the winners?
All right, I'm going to start with sharing my screen here. All right, it was quite a lot of fun looking at all the entries that came in, and I was very surprised at also the level of entries because a lot of photographers did surprise me with what they were photographing and how they were photographing things. So I'm glad to share some of the photographs which I have picked from this all the entries that came in. We're going to start with the camera category, and we broadly starting with all the images that are interesting at the moment, and towards the end we can talk about the winners. This image is very interesting for me because I really like how it's been composed. I like how that man has been composed in between the legs of the board and how the bird is flying on the top. It's a very nice scene where you see the fog in the background, that two other men sitting in the foreground with their shawls and their heads covered. So it's a very interesting rural winter scene for me, and because it's been composed very well, I decided to put it in as one of my selections. Yeah. This image by Dipro, which looks like it's been photographed during the Chhat Puja, is always fascinating. Is a fascinating event for me because it's obviously winters around that time, and people decide to take a plunge into the river. Obviously, they're just in their saris and basic clothes, and their devotion is always a contradiction with the atmosphere around. So the fog in the background and the blue suggest that it's really morning hours, and then you have these devout there, which have been composed very well in the image. I like the woman in the center, the way her head is bowed, and the sari that she's wearing, and also people, uh, the man on her right and the woman right at the corner. I really wished that it had a little more space towards the right, but despite that, this photograph works well for me. This is a very subtle image by Dipro. I really like the fact that the bones of the horse, I think it's a horse, is repeated in texture with the hair. And we obviously know it's winter because we see all the fog with a very little sign of a tree on the left hand side. So, despite the fact that this image has no people, it still suggests that it's a very delicate winter morning. Sayan's image is has made it to the list for the reason that whenever I think of winters, I think of lights shining through foggy mornings. It's always a mix of blue and yellow for me. And despite the fact that there are no people in this image, it and the orange that's there in the background kind of makes this image for me because it does bring across a gloomy feeling and the blue of the winters. Raman's image from Shimla is a very simple image, but a well composed image. Uh, Everyone's out right after snow and they're enjoying themselves. People are playing and everyone's hanging around together. It's interesting how the entire black and white scene is only spotted by the little color of the umbrellas, and uh, I think it's a good job done by Raman in bringing across the feel of the place on a winter day. This image is very relatable by Sanid because uh, it's such a typical morning scene. The way the uncle is stretching himself is fun, and then the also the setting of 4 5 people working out together. It's always interesting because that's a very usual winter morning scene. I like the body language of the man on the right hand side. The image has been composed pretty well, so there is it's very well layered, and then there's no overlapping of people that's happening in the image, which is why this is my select. Again, Deepa's image, there's a lot of activity happening here, the 3 cycles, and also the movement of the women on the cycles and the boy running in the background and the 2 women walking on the right hand side. There's so many activities happening with the 4 people sitting in center. So it's a very nice picnic scene on a winter day, and the I think it's the rush of activities around which makes the image for me, and the reason why I decided to keep it as one of the selects. I was really happy to see this image, and the reason for this was I enjoyed the idea that the feeling of winter was conveyed through a mustard field, which is so relatable. In the entire imagination of India, mustard fields are so relatable. You do see those 2 women walking along, which and looks like they covered with a shawl, and the idea of photographing the fields through this shack that's there, which I think it's a shack. It could also be a boat which is just perched to the side. But the idea of photographing the scene through this structure is adds a lot of depth into the image, and it brings about a contradiction in the image. Against the beauty of the mustard fields, you have this dilapidated cloth flowing in the foreground and this structure in the foreground which is not very picturesque, which and it's this contradiction which makes this image very interesting. This is such a funny photograph. you know I've never seen a man pick up a dog almost his size and walk across a railway line while the dog is trying to perch himself on the thighs of the man. And it's a very unusual and funny scene. And I was really glad that Amardeep managed to photograph it for this series. So now we're going to move to the smartphone category. The above were my selects from the camera category. You'll have to wait a little more till we announce the winners because we're now going to discuss our entries from the smartphone category now. Again, bringing to you some of the selects out of the many that we received. The morning, this photograph by Muhammad Al Kama Sadiq is a very quiet photograph, and the reason I decided to have it here was because of the light that's falling on the woman. It's a soft light and it's a morning light. You see the little haze outside the window, which makes it interesting. It's a very soft moment. I like the idea that uh, the photographer, has managed to photograph the woman while she's saying her prayers, and the fact that it's such a simple moment captured on camera, so which is why I decided to put it here. This image by Subhashish is here because of its humor. It's funny how the horses' heads on the left, the 2 horses' heads on the left can't be seen, and the head of one horse is almost uh, going into the bum of the first horse on the left hand side. I do think it's a little over post processed. I would have rather that Subhashish kind of uh, did underdo the post processing a bit, but it's a funny image nonetheless, and also very well composed. Sunil has photographed a scene which I have seen a lot of times. But what's interesting about the photograph is that Sunil decided to photograph the scene through something. You know, it looks like a railing through which Sunil's photographed the scene. The bird on the right hand side justifies the space outside the semicircle, and everything inside the semicircle is so well composed. Uh, and I'm glad at the effort that the photographers made here. A very light scene by Sanjeev. Kids playing, a man walking past, the haze in the background. It's a very simple photograph, but I like it for its simplicity. Sunil has been thoroughly fortunate to find this scene at the Taj, and he's also photographed it pretty well. I really hope that Sunil did not include the first man on the left hand side and decided to make the image without him. I can also make out that the person is a photographer. So, you know, if you're in situations such as these, I would suggest try to avoid having other photographers in your image. But overall, it's a very beautiful setup. So, good job done. This is a fun photograph, you know, with all the birds flying. The fact that we don't see the man's head in the image is interesting. The way his hands are positioned almost kind of uh, kind of replicate the wings of the birds, you know, the fingers and the wings, which is what is interesting for me because those patterns are repeated across the image. Don't spoil beauty of this place. This is just funny, you know. With the man sleeping and the dog looking at you, almost it's almost like the dog is telling you, don't spoil the beauty of this place. So I like the humor that Sanid has put into this image. And now moving on to the to announcing who the winners are for this series. I decided that the best images for me were by Amardeep Sharma for the camera category and Sanit Roy Chaudhary for smartphone category because not only they're well shot, but they also have a sense of humor. And for me as a photographer, it's always interesting to see and to understand what a photographer has to say instead of just composing good images or just having pretty images there. So congratulations, Amar, and congratulations, Sanit. Good job done, and I enjoyed looking at your photographs. Uh, Hoping you will be sharing more of those online, and good luck for this. Looking forward to seeing more images from all of the photographers here on Instagram and other social media platforms. Thank you so much, guys.